Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm gonna do the mid-year reading tag today. It's only right that we do it. I'm halfway through the year and I've already had more 5-star reads than I had in the whole of 2024. So I just want to tell you about all the books I'm reading so you can add them to your own TBR. Okay, so let's start by summing up how many books I've read, my average star rating, and how many 5 stars I've had. My reading goal for this year was 75 books and I'm currently on 39, so I am right on track. If I don't finish one in the next couple of days, I'll be behind, and I do want to get more, so I'm ahead, but as it stands, I'm currently right on track for 75. My average reading rating is actually 4.26 at the minute, which is really pretty high, but I'm literally having the best reading year ever. And I genuinely believe this is through design, not by fluke. I have made it this way through a variety of techniques that I tried and tested. If you'd like me to do a video on how to get high star reads that you're going to love, let me know. But so far that means I have 10 5-star books and one fan fiction that I would say was as good as all of those 5-star reads. I have my laptop here, by the way, for the rest of the questions. But the second question on the tag list is the best book you have read in 2025, and mine is Blood Over Brighthaven. Blood Over Brighthaven has been my absolute top read of this year. It goes beyond 5-star into that like 6-star god tier realm. If you don't know, this is a dark academia fantasy book by M.L. Wang, who is also the author of Sword of Kaigan. Sword of Kaigan was also in my top 3 reads of last year, so I am just quickly becoming a massive fan of hers. The book follows Tamil and Sayona, who are both very different people from very different backgrounds, living extremely different lifestyles, and it tells their perspective as Tamil is forced to go and live in this city that has taken over indigenous land, and he's forced to become a cleaner in this like magic academy that Sayona works at. Sayona has just become the first ever female high mage, so even though she is in an extreme position of privilege, she also does have misogyny working against her. The two of them have extremely different thoughts on politics and how the world works, and unfortunately for Tamil, it's something that he can't change his mind on because the way the system works is the reason that his entire family is dead. But as the story develops, you see Sayona kind of start to pick apart the society that she has been raised in and really come to terms with what's wrong with it and also try to fix it. This is such an emotional book. You definitely have to be in it from start to finish to feel the overall impact, because at times the characters will really frustrate you, specifically Sayona, so you don't really feel like you've enjoyed it until the end, or at least that was my reading experience. I couldn't put it down, don't get me wrong, but I was infuriated the whole way through and angered, and then at the end everything just came together flawlessly. I would recommend this book to absolutely everyone. I think this is a must read. I highly doubt that there's many people who won't at least enjoy this. Perhaps it won't be a 6-star read for everyone, but I definitely think everyone should at least give it a go. Okay, question number 3 is the best sequel you have read this year. For me, this one is an absolute no-brainer. It has to be Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. So I read Legendborn ages ago, like 2 years ago, and I really wanted to carry on the series this year. I had initially waited because I knew there was such a long break between book 2 and book 3 being published, so I was like, might as well wait. So I waited, and then this year I did a reread of Legendborn and went straight on to Bloodmarked and Oathbound back to back. Obsessed. I really enjoyed the whole series, but specifically Bloodmarked. If you don't know, this is a YA fantasy series, again with a little bit of dark academia in there, but it's also a retelling of King Arthur, and it has Welsh lore and mythology, which I feel like is super rare to get in fantasy books, especially in the modern kind of YA fantasy space. We definitely tend to get more Greek mythology, Norse mythology, so it was nice to see something a little bit different. The book series predominantly focuses on Bree, who is our main character, and focuses on her as she goes to this magical academy and lots of weird stuff starts happening to her, and she figures out that the death of her mother is involved, and all of this kind of stuff just comes to a head. and she finds herself initiated into this legion. But the book also does have two other main characters, Selwyn and Nick, who are both really big parts of the story. And when I tell you that the reason I love Bloodmarked so much is because Sel is such a big part of it. He is probably one of my favourite characters of all time. In fact, he is one of my favourite characters of all time. I recently did a little top 10 book characters of all time video on TikTok, and I put him in the number 2 spot because I just love how grumpy he is, how sarcastic he is, how vicious he is, unapologetic, but like committed to the cause and committed to Bree. Absolutely love him and love that book. It was non-stop action, non-stop magic, tension. Amazing. You need to read the series if you haven't already. Next question, biggest surprise. Again, an easy one for me. My biggest surprise easily has been Nightshade by Autumn Woods, and that's because I think it's a debut for the author. I hadn't really seen much about it. All I knew was that her Instagram and her marketing for this book was top tier, because I followed her and I saw all this beautiful fan art and all of these Instagram carousels with like what tropes it had in and plot information, and I thought, this sounds really cute, this sounds good, I'm going to give it a go. But I didn't really have high expectations, I just thought I might like it, yet it was a 5-star read for me. And again, it's dark academia, but also romance and also thriller, so it has this romantic suspense plot. And the best thing about this is it is so perfectly moody and autumnal and tense, and it is just made for the spooky season girlies. If you like A Study in Drowning, Ophelia, the main character, actually really reminds me of Effie in that book, and the kind of autumnal setting feels like that as well. However, it's set in Scotland and we have a French love interest who is a rugby player, tattooed, and is a caretaker for his 6 younger sisters. So the romance, I feel like I don't even need to say anything more than that. You're probably going to be like, okay, sounds perfect. And it is perfect. It's so perfect. It also has like email and crossword banter with each other. They do little puzzles together, they send emails together. If you like love letters or like Divine Rivals, when Roman and Iris, I'm sure is that her name? I think that's her name, communicate with the typewriters, you're going to love this. But yeah, it was a really pleasant surprise, and the biggest surprise about it was when I got to the end and there was a massive cliffhanger and I realised it was going to be a series. That really was a surprise because I didn't know. It has actually just been picked up by Trad Publishers, and now it's published by Pan Macmillan, and it has this beautiful new cover, and you might have seen the frayed edge edition that's in the works as well. So if you want it, now is actually the perfect time to get it because they have that beautiful edition. Not an ad, by the way, just someone who loves it. Next question. Favourite author as someone who is a debut or new to you? So I've actually read a lot of authors this year who have been new to me or, you know, had a debut book. Obviously Autumn Woods was one, like I said. But I think the one that I have to say as my answer for this is Abby Jimenez, because I'd never read her until this year, but now I've done 3 books and 2 were 5-star reads and 1 was a 4.5. So I feel like she has to take the crown, right? How could you have 2 5-star books by this author and not give it to her? I'm pretty sure that as a romance reader, I might be the last person to have started her books, but just in case you haven't read them either, I would say she is comparable to Emily Henry in the sense that her romance is quite simple, it's easy to read, it all flows, but the characters are really in depth and the problems surrounding the relationships feel really realistic, really in depth and really emotional. For example, in Yours Truly, which is my favourite of her books that I've read, there is a large chronic illness storyline to do with the main character's brother. There is also a storyline with the love interest around anxiety, and it is probably the best anxiety representation that I have ever read as someone that is diagnosed and struggled with anxiety for a large part of their teenage years and 20s. It's just perfectly written, it's so relatable, it made me cry, and all of her books are like that. They all have extra things in that you will relate to, things that will just kind of encompass you in their relationship that much more. Next question, newest fictional crush. It's none other than Dusty Tucker from Wild and Wrangled. He has become one of my top book boyfriends of all time. I love this series in general. I love all the love interests. I love all the female main characters. I love the found family dynamic. I love the setting. Like, it's just up there as one of my favourite series. However, I really did not expect to love Dusty like I did, particularly because he's blonde and I'm definitely on the like dark-haired love interest team. But put a man in a leather jacket, a crop top, give him a nose ring, make him listen to emo music, say less, I'm there. And that is how I feel about Dusty, and he does all of those things. He also is covered in tattoos, as you can see, and he has doted and yearned after this woman for literally his whole teenage and adult life. What could be better? He is the sweetest, most devoted, and this was a perfect conclusion to the series. It was second chance romance, it was friends to lovers, obviously found family that continued through the whole series. Absolutely perfect. I actually think about this book all the time. I think I rated it 4.5, but for how much I think about it, I might actually have to change it to 5. Guys, it is hotter than Satan's arse in here, like, ugh. Thank God for matcha is all I'm going to say. The next question was really hard because I have multiple for this one. The question is a book that made you cry. Honestly, I must just be getting soft in my old age because I could think of 5 books on this list out of 35 just off the top of my head that made me cry, but there's probably even more than that. That's just the ones that I wrote in my review that I cried. Obviously, I already mentioned that Blood Over Brighthaven I cried, so the 2 that I'm specifically going to talk about are A Sea of Unspoken Things and When the Moon Hatched. I feel like A Sea of Unspoken Things is such an underrated book. I barely hear anyone talk about this. It is Adrienne Young, who is the author of Unmaking of June Farrow, which was very popular, but I haven't heard of many people reading this yet, and I really think you should. It is super tiny. You can read it in one sitting and just devour it and get lost in this world. It is a mystery thriller with a tiny little magical realism, paranormal kind of twist. But if you liked her other book, Spells for Forgetting, you have to read this. It's so beautiful. It follows a woman who one day gets a call to say that her twin has died, and she actually already knew that because she felt her connection to him sever when he died, and she knew that he had left this world. So she goes back to the town where she grew up, which is where he still was, and tries to figure out the mystery of his death. The location of this book is like a small logging town. I don't know if it's in the Pacific Northwest, but it definitely gives Pacific Northwest atmosphere, mood. Just, you feel like you're in this forest. You feel like you can smell the ocean breeze. It is moody, but also beautiful. And just something about the way she writes the connections with the characters and the romance. I just felt like this really taught me about small town life and those connections we form to the people that we have known the longest and the people that share our sort of culture. You know, like when you go back home sometime to see your family and you just instantly feel like everyone there understands the way you speak and the way you think. That's kind of what this feels like to read. And yeah, this book did make me cry, even though it was super tiny. It just packed a lot of emotion into it, and I really loved the second chance romance. And of course, I also said When the Moon Hatched. I'm not going to hold this. I'm not going to put my wrists through that. She's a chunky book. But yes, this book did make me cry. I had heard mixed things about this book going in. It is book 1 in a romantic fantasy series, and the reason I specifically say romantic fantasy is because it is definitely fantasy first. It has heavy world building. It is a fully fleshed out world and magic system. So if, like me, you really like those things in the romantasy space, this is one you have to read. It does have very descriptive, flowery, lyrical writing. I personally love that, but I've seen a lot of reviews where people didn't like that, so I think it's a bit of a Marmite thing. But if you like things like Dowry of Blood and the writing style in that, I think you'll like When the Moon Hatched. I can't really tell you what the tropes are in this book because I feel like it's a bit of a spoiler to say what they are, but it is very different to your typical sort of enemies to lovers, morally grey man romantasy, and the only thing that feels similar to other romantasies is that we definitely have a strong, tough, badass FMC. However, from the cover and the title and, you know, just the imagery around this book, you might already know that it has dragons, and you might already kind of get a sense of this like fairy tale like quality from the title, and that specifically is what made me cry. It wasn't the romance, it wasn't a specific plot point, there was just some really beautiful quotes in there that just really touched me. The way the dragons are written is so beautiful, such a fairy tale like element to how they die, and the quotes around that just really touched me because it kind of makes you feel like you do about your pets. I don't know how to explain it other than if you're an animal lover, I feel like you'll get the connection to the dragons and it will make you emotional. Okay, a book that made you happy. This one is also easy. The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy. Obviously, this was originally a Hermione fan fiction. It was Draco Malfoy and the mortifying ordeal of being in love, which I loved. And this has now been rewritten, you know, reimagined, new world, new characters, new magic system, but the humorous, light-hearted essence is still very much there, and it just made me laugh the whole way through. I had such a good time reading it. Osric was so true to the characterization from the original fanfic. I loved his sarcastic, dry sense of humour, and I'm really excited that this is going to be a duology. I can't wait to see what happens in book 2. Yeah, just, I mean, if you're a Hermione fan, you already know the types of storyline and plot that's going to be in it, but it does feel fresh and new. But if you haven't read the original fan fiction, you are going to find that this is really unique and original. It's very different to typical romanticises, but in the best way, and you'll just have the most fun reading it. Next question was, what's the most beautiful book you have received or brought this year? And I had to really think about that one because I get tons of books all the time. I'm so privileged to get ARCs sent to me, finished copies sent to me. I pre-order books myself. I buy a lot of books myself. So it was really hard to narrow down. I also get the Fairy Loot Romantasy subscription, but I actually think my favourite special edition or book that I've brought myself this year is A Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, and this is the Afterlight exclusive version. Initially I wasn't actually sure about this because it's quite small, so if you compare it to Emily's other books, that's the height difference. So I was a bit disappointed. It was not their mistake, it was mine. I just didn't read the listing. But she's really actually quite beautiful, like the ombre sprayed edges, the dust jacket. But then what's the best bit about it is the naked hardback. Look at that. And that is the reason I haven't actually sold it, even though it doesn't match the sizing of my other books by her. Okay, next question is new release you haven't read yet but want to. And this is going to be really surprising. The answer is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. And it's surprising because if you have followed me on TikTok, you might know that I actually did not love the One Dark Crown. Is that what it's called? One Dark Window series. I only read book 1. I did not do book 2. I gave it 3 stars. I found the main character a little bit frustrating. Some of the world building was inconsistent. And yeah, I just didn't love it as much as everyone else did. So initially, I didn't really have The Night and the Moth on my radar at all. I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this. But everybody keeps talking about it and everybody keeps talking about how funny it is. And I keep hearing about this Bartholomew. So I feel like I'm getting FOMO and I need to give it a go. If you've read it, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I will like it. Following on from that, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. It's A Theory of Dreaming by Ava Reid. A Study in Drowning is one of my favourite YA books ever. I've already mentioned it in this video because that's how much I love it. And I have 2 different versions of it. I am getting the proof of A Theory of Dreaming. I've actually been waiting for it. It should be here very shortly, hopefully. But it is my most anticipated release because I just want to know what happens with Effie and Preston. I really want to be back in that atmospheric world again, and I just want to be with characters that I love so much. And I just can't see me not liking this book. It might not be as good as book 1, but I can't see me not liking it at all. So I am frothing at the mouth for this. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? Oof. The easier question would be, what don't I need to read by the end of the year? Exorcism of Fairies is one. I was lucky enough to get an ARC from the author, and she is indie, so I really want to support her and read this. And I keep meaning to do it, and then I get sent something else, or something else crops up like a book club read, and I'm gonna do it because I also just saw Bailey read it and she absolutely loved it. Me and Bailey have a very similar taste, so I will get to that shortly. I also want to catch up on Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti's books, so I need to finish the Age of Vampires series, and I know specifically the reason I have not been reading their books is because then there's nothing to read, if that makes sense. Like, the way that I loved Zodiac Academy was all consuming at the time, and although my reading taste has changed a lot since then, there is still something so comforting to me about their books, and they just always write the most delicious, tension-filled romances. So I am finally going to go back to that series and finish it, and I'm going to do Neverkeep and Echo Fort and Darkmoor Penitentiary. Like, I've put it off for so long, but I need to go back to their books and that world. And then an absolute must is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. As I've said in videos before, my name is printed on the back of this with a quote. This is the proof edition, so I absolutely have to read it. But again, I just keep putting it off. I don't know why. Next question is, what books do you want to reread this year? The answer is always the same, and it's my darling Cruel Prince series. There's Carden and Jude. I love these books. I have a tattoo because of them. I've only read them once though, and it was years ago, like I'm talking 2021. So I would love to revisit these, see if I still love them as much. I really think I will, and I just feel like I want to go back to Jude's tenacious, intelligent mind. I also started a reread of the House of Night series as part of my rereading 2000s books to see if they still slap series, and I only did book one, so I would like to do the rest of them. The only reason I haven't is because I need to rebuy them all on Kindle because my physicals are in an attic in my granddad's house. So I do want to go back and reread that series, but not necessarily because I loved it, more because I want to see how it fares now, like almost 15 years later. Next question, a book you enjoyed that had mixed reviews. That would be Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. I really enjoyed this book. Do I understand the criticisms around it and what people didn't like about it? Yes, because those were the exact reasons that it is not my favourite Ali book. Do I love this as much as Love on the Brain, as much as Not in Love, as much as Problematic Summer Romance? No. Did I still enjoy it? Yes. I think it's probably like a 4.25 star read for me. Had a good time. The spice was spicing. He was a great love interest. Like, it made me want to go to Sweden and hop on a plane. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just a fun, easy read. Nothing groundbreaking. Definitely some annoying things in there, but overall I enjoyed this, had a good time, even though a lot of people did not. Okay, and the final question for the mid-year reading tag is, what are my 5-star predictions for the rest of the year? I definitely have 5-star predictions for Catabasis, and I've just received the ARC for this. I think I'm going to love that. I love the Poppy War series. I love high fantasy, and I'm very much in my high fantasy, give me an in-depth read, give me a well-researched read, give me a unique magic system read era. So I really do think that Catabasis is going to deliver for me. Similarly, I need to finish the Poppy War series. If you've been here a little bit, you'll know that I have started but not finished Burning Gods because I saw a spoiler for the end on TikTok. So that kind of like upset my reading experience a little bit, and I've come away from it. I do need to go back to it. I do still think it's going to be a 5-star read when I do finish it, just because of how amazing the characterization of Rin and the other characters are, and just how visceral and impactful and angry these books are. I do also have a 5-star feeling about The Favourites by Lane Fargo. My friends have read this, they loved it, and I just really love books that have romance but also something else outside of the romance, and I think this is that. I really feel like I'm going to absolutely love this book from the reviews I've seen and from the mutuals that have loved it, so that's another one. Diabound is another one. I love a romantasy when it's done well, and everyone is loving this one, including a couple of my actual like best friends. So it's not just hyped on BookTok, it's hyped by people that I know and trust their reading taste. So again, I do think that's going to be 5-star. We are going to be reading that in July for book club actually. So if you want to join us, the link's in the description. But otherwise you can wait for my review and I will update you on my Diabound rating. But yes, that is all of the questions in the mid-year reading tag. I will do a mid-year reading wrap up as well and talk about all 39 books and review them properly and tell you which ones are must reads, but that will be in a separate video. If you have any other video suggestions of what you would like to see, please also drop them below so that I can create some videos that would really help you out with book recs for the second half of the year. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're also having a fab reading year. Let me know in the comment below what your favourite book of 2025 has been so far. Otherwise, I will see you next Monday for another video. Love you, bye!